Drebin!
Dexter is in trouble, because this man is basically a cartoon character. There is nothing Dexter can do to predict or stop this absolute force of chaos. Drebin replaces Lundy as head of the task force, which I have to stop for a second here, because the thought of Deborah developing the same feelings for Drebin as she does for Lundy is quite the mental image. Unlike Lundy, however, Drebin completely botches every single part of the investigation at every opportunity. He contaminates crime scenes, loses evidence, ruins interrogations, sends everyone in the wrong direction by taking the Bay Harbor Butcher name literally and sending them to investigate butcher shops, and it's probably Drebin's fault instead of Dexter's that the AC unit to the morgue gets destroyed. After all this incompetence, it's likely Matthews takes Drebin off the case and suspends him. And it's only after pursuing his relationship with Deborah that Drebin eventually gets a closer look at Dexter and finally notices some of his absences and the inconsistencies about his stories. Eager to get his badge back and to put the butcher behind bars, Drebin starts following Dexter independently, where he eventually catches up with him and catches Dexter red-handed. Considering Frank Drebin basically has Toon Force on his side, there's some real doubt if Dexter can actually win this fight, but in the event that he does, Drebin winds up in the same position as Dokes, in Dexter's captivity at the cabin. And if Frank doesn't annoy Dexter enough to make him break his code and kill him, which, let's be honest, with Drebin is entirely possible, Drebin makes it all the way to the cabin explosion that Lila causes, but with one major difference. Unlike the detectives before him in this same position, Frank Drebin survives the explosion. Frank gets blasted into the lower atmosphere and lands like half a mile away in the swamp somewhere, covered in soot like a Looney Tunes character. And after fighting a few alligators, Frank runs and tells the first responders he finds everything that happened. If Lila doesn't get to him first, Dexter gets arrested immediately when returning to the cabin scene. But even if Lila does find and warn Dexter about everything that happened before this, and they decide to run away to Europe together, this is Lieutenant Frank Drebin we're talking about here. This is the man that traveled across the world to Beirut to punch Godolphin in the face and tossed Gorbachev's head through a wall. Is this even remotely in his jurisdiction? No! But it's Frank Drebin, and there's nowhere Dexter or Lila will ever be able to go that Frank will not eventually be able to find them and bring them to justice. Dexter gets arrested.